podcast. My name is Dr. Cindy. I'm a naturopathic doctor, a single mother of two beautiful girls, a retreat host, and I am super passionate about supporting families as they bring new life into this reality. I want to ensure that we are imprinting love, safety, and trust onto the next generation because I know that the ripple effects of that are far greater than we can even understand. So let's get rid of the fear, the anxiety, and the uncertainty that goes along with the birth process, and let's enter a new phase of reality. Please remember that although I am a naturopathic doctor, I am not your naturopathic doctor. This information is made available to you for educational and informational purposes only and should never be used as a substitute for medical advice.
Hello, everyone. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about, as a solo podcast, about finding your voice. And that I think is so crucial. And if you can practice doing that before giving birth, that is going to be so powerful for you during that process. There are a lot of women who, during the birth process, still in that moment when their needs are of ultimate priority for the situation, still in that moment, might consider someone else's comfort over theirs, or not want to vocalize too loud. They might stifle themselves from vocalizing. They might feel that they are vocalizing in weird ways that might be perceived as odd, and might not want to feel like they are being bossy or like feeling like an authoritarian, or just because they're voicing what they need in that scenario. And so I really want to encourage anyone who is on the cusp of experiencing birth, if birth and labor, if you have a due date coming up, if you're even just trying to conceive, if you are in the early stages of labor and delivery, of pregnancy, or even afterwards, if you're in the postpartum period, finding your voice is still crucial because your needs are so important during these phases of your life. And I really, really hope that that this podcast or any of the work that I have to offer, or if you're able to come across anyone's work in the birthing world, or anyone who can encourage you to find your voice and find a sense of confidence in who you are, is going to offer you what you need. Because if you're not able to vocalize what you need, and you're going to feel a sense of a sense of being sidelined throughout the process of labor and delivery, that you're not being prioritized, that you're not being cared for, that your needs are not being met in that process, it might trigger you to go into a different state of your nervous system. So instead of being in the more parasympathetic state, which is where a lot of the hormonal cascades will flow efficiently so that labor and delivery and birth can happen efficiently, you might find yourself in more of a state of fight or flight or freeze or fawn, which is where a lot of the hormonal cascade can stop, and that can lead to failure to progress and the need for progressive interventions, like starting with Pitocin usually. So finding your voice is tricky. And sometimes you need to experience something really profound in order to step into who you are and be confident in that voice. But however you're able to get there, I think it's really important to have that happen before you experience labor and delivery, because your birth partner cannot do that for you. You also need to find your voice beforehand so that you can communicate that to someone who will advocate for you. So if you're working with a birth coach or a doula or your midwife or your OB or whoever it might be, in order to know what you want, know what's okay, know what's not okay, what your boundaries are in that process, and how you're going to be cared for in that experience, it's really important to voice that beforehand, because when you're in the state of labor and delivery, sometimes you might have a voice, but you're not able to vocalize it appropriately in accordance with what you want in that state. You might be in a state of shock. You might be in a state like an out of body experience. So you need to vocalize what's okay for you and what's not okay for you with someone who can advocate on your behalf, just in case you cannot do it for yourself throughout that process. Just a reminder, like, you're so vulnerable in that state. You will probably never be more vulnerable in your life. So if something happens and you don't feel like someone is advocating for you, and you also don't feel like you can voice what you need and what's okay and what you don't need, just because you're in a very physically demanding state, things can a lot of times slip out of your hands, and you'll feel like there's a lack of control, a lack of autonomy. And that's the last thing that I want for any woman to experience when she's bringing new life into this reality, when she is birthing her children. And so I think the main message would just be to communicate with an advocate beforehand, someone who will hopefully be at your birth, and step into, maybe it might be a helpful exercise to experience situations that you wouldn't normally put yourself in, that can maybe test your boundaries, so that you can know what's okay for you, what's not okay for you, and have kind of like build that muscle of letting the people around you know what your boundaries are, what's okay, what's not okay, what feels right for you, what doesn't feel right for you. And as I'm saying this could be in a sexual context with your partner. Maybe you and your partner can experience things or explore things that you haven't before, and you can just practice with your partner, like, oh, that feels good, that doesn't feel good, that feels okay, that's not okay with me. And at least you're practicing that muscle of what's good, what's not good for you, what your boundaries are, and actually externalizing that, like expressing that in some way, because that is so crucial during the birth process.
Today's episode is brought to you by a game changer in my daily routine, mud water. Now, if you're tired of the coffee crashes and jitters like I have been, and you want something that not only tastes amazing, but also provides clean, sustainable energy, you have got to try this stuff. Picture this: a cup of mud water in hand, the perfect blend of functional mushrooms without any of those unnecessary sweeteners, and let's not forget the antioxidant power of turmeric, the anti-inflammatory benefits, and the mouth-watering flavor profile of masala chai, turmeric, cinnamon, and cacao. Trust me, you will love this flavor. I'm a working mom, and mud water has become my secret weapon. 1 cup in the morning, sometimes another in the afternoon, and suddenly I'm not just getting through my day, I'm thriving. The sustainable energy and focus have made me more productive, less irritable, and an all-around better version of myself. And here's the best part: head over to mudwater.com/birthceo. That's mudwtr.com/birthceo. And when you're checking out, enter the promo code BIRTHCEO to snag an exclusive 25% off. Yep, that's right, 25% off your Mudwater order. So if you're ready to upgrade your daily ritual, say goodbye to the coffee crashes, and hello to sustained energy and focus, check out Mudwater. Your taste buds and productivity will thank you.
And another bonus of that is that experiencing sex and orgasm throughout your pregnancy often leads to a more efficient labor and delivery, because your body already has those patterns ingrained, and the muscle memory ingrained. And it's the same hormonal cascade that happens in labor and delivery as what happens in sex and orgasm. And I would also encourage you to do something creative with your voice beforehand. So whether it's singing, dancing, screaming, yodeling, like whatever it might be, mimicking bird songs, whatever it might be. Actually, now that I'm saying that, it might be nice to sing to your baby, because you can use your voice and you can use it in a way that feels good and also connect with your baby throughout the pregnancy. So using your voice in a lot of different ways. And the other thing to note about using your voice in labor and delivery is that the epiglottis mirrors the cervix. And so if you use a high-pitched sound, that kind of contracts and constricts the epiglottis, and so that it can reach that note. But what we want in labor and delivery is more of a lower pitch sound, so that the epiglottis opens, and the voice box opens and it relaxes, just like the cervix. And so for me, during labor and delivery, I found myself making a very almost like monotone, very low, like sound throughout the contractions, waves, or surges. And for me, that was a way of not just expressing myself, but it also, I felt, helped me cope with the intensity that I was experiencing. And it also helped to open up my cervix and for me to dilate efficiently. And versus, I find when some people might experience intensity, the reaction is often to contract and like that kind of voice. And so if we can, first of all, train ourselves that when we're going to feel intensity, that we're going to expand. And this is a little bit of the hypnobirthing aspect coming into play. But instead of reacting to intensity with this contraction, and you're going to lower your voice, open yourself up, expand as much as you can, and your cervix will have the same reaction, because the mind and the body are one. There is no mind-body connection. It is just the mind-body. It is one. And so the more that we can train ourselves beforehand to experience the intensity, to respond to the intensity with a different reflex, go into the more parasympathetic rest state and calm state, and train ourselves to, although we might find ourselves in the more sympathetic fight or flight mode at times, to train ourselves to shift back. And we can use our voice to do that. We can use movement to do that. Hypnobirthing is a great way to do that. So I hope that you found this helpful, and I'm going to start to make more short podcasts around this size. And yeah, let me know what you guys think.
Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I'm so grateful that you're here, and I really can't wait for this community to just flourish and blossom. Please remember to like and share this podcast and leave a review if you feel called to. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Upstream Institute for more information on offerings and retreats. I'll see you next time.